All right, friends. So now here we are returning to pick up where we left off. The first time we were in the middle of an orientation of the Exodus, these sessions that are going to maybe to some people reintroduce the whole concept of what the Exodus was about and why it happened the way it did, and then what it means to us going forward today and even in the future up until the return of the Lord, and how these things are still important. And so Todd Eaton, our dear brother on the scene, is here and ready. And in a moment, we'll pull back up some visuals here so folks can get on board and see what we're learning. And there is our friend Taryn as well, who is extremely interested in this topic and will help us along as we go. So, without further ado, let us pick up in this orientation, introduction into the Exodus and why it matters to us today. And Mr. Eaton, whenever you are ready, my friend.
Okay. Uh, my my point in doing this is getting everybody rooted and grounded in hard reality. Um, this is this is about the identity of God. Uh, the it was all very ambiguous, and we were free to interpret all things as we saw fit, and to each his own, and everything else. But we all do live in the same reality, and in within all the same confines, our limitations, our capacities, all within this provided range of capability. And it is within this that we see the truth after the fact, after it's all proved to be. It was all left open to whether you receive it, whether as you have believed whatever according to this. But as time goes on, it gets more and more obvious, undeniable, apparent. We could deny it until it showed itself to be important, uh, and uh, and now the significance gets activated. Um, what the Exodus is a continuation of Genesis. Genesis and Exodus are one volume. They segue into each other, and they hinge at the point where they are in where this family has come to be in Egypt, and how things change. How when they came in, everything was just a temporary. We're just stopping through to where we are really. This is all we've known. We've been raised in a world that our orientation has lost touch with anything but this. We're gonna either end up fully committed to we are Egyptians, or we are going to be extricated, and that's what happens at Exodus. Um, but extracting is not what Exodus means. Exodus is actually more like emergence. It, they, it is um, it's the coming out, as opposed to being being forcefully taken out. And it's kind of important that you realize that your will has everything to do with this. But what happens in Exodus is we find out that what seemed chaotic and senseless uh, has all made perfect sense, and it's all coming to be realized that it was meant to be. Even what was chaotic and haphazard was in fact intended and planned, even though that's a bad word for it. Um, Still, what happens in the Exodus is he reveals his identity in every way. He has a name, and it's a meaningful name, and he has a purpose, and it's an all-encompassing purpose. There's nothing that is left out of this equation. He is the God of the heavens and the earth. So this first part that I've been dealing with has been just that, proving that he is the maker and intender and purposer of the heavens and the earth. And it's a very real thing. That it happens to involve personal relationships. It has uh, it is like the earth was created to be inhabited. This is the extent of God being a servant of man, that he has made all things for man. He's set it all up in this beautiful balance. Everything even seeming wrong has very good reason for our goodness. It is God has served us a good thing and made us able to be good and to recognize his goodness. And this beautiful thing is the next step in it, how it becomes very human. He has actually, scripture goes so far as to say he has submitted, I don't know if that's the word, all creation to vanity. He's put it in our hands. We can go ahead, and he's put it within our capacity to mess everything up, and still it's okay. We can only do what we can only do, and it's so limited that though we think we are just catastrophic, we can just destroy the whole earth and everything. He laughs. He who sits in the heavens laughs at what we think is so bad that we should fear. And he says, no, fear not what man can do. Fear not what he's already promised. He's not going to destroy all mankind again. That's an important thing to realize, that everything that was promised sets us up in a very assured position about what's about to happen, and that it's all from the foretold from the beginning. He's told the end. He's determined that there is a script to everything that is going on. So this picture showing, oh neat, I've got a little ball on it. This is so cool. I told her to make me a cursor that I can point things out at on the screen, and it's a little wiggly ball. That's cute. Anyways, this is showing the core of the earth, and the core of the earth is a very, very heavy, dense. It is magnetic, so we know it's iron. It's molten, but it's very dense, and it sits at the stable point within the earth. Whether you could call that the absolute center of the earth in the sense of rotating on its axis, it's balanced in there, and yet the earth it has a wobble. It's and it sits in a fluid state within magma, so the whole thing is kind of wiggly in there, and it is an engine that's actually working, and this gives us this life-sustaining magnetic field that states at the top here. It is what's protecting us from the solar radiation whenever there are solar storms, and at the same time, it is giving us the greatness of weather. It gives the basically, without an electric charge up in the atmosphere, a lightning bolt can't happen. The positive negative spark thing can't occur. That is what causes rain. The humidity that is raised up in the clouds to become the rain that falls upon the earth. The thunder that claps the lightning that makes the strip of commensurate particles of air vaporize, that makes the heavens clap back together again, that creates the thunder we hear, that is what shook the heavens, is what makes the raindrops out of all those what would just be humidity, and makes rain happen. So the electric charge had to be up there so there has to be this magnetic field, and it's a wonderful thing. It's all part of the grand scheme of creation, that this had to be imparted to us and that imparting broke off the moon and left us with continents that are all together, and a big piece of what is now the Pacific Basin was pow knocked off and became the moon is really important. And so in our first one, we really dealt with that, how this Earth spinning faster on its axis at that point in time while the moon was close kept the Earth stable, even though it was missing a big piece. And as the moon went out away from the Earth and the Earth slowed in its spin, the continental breakup stabilized into what we now know as the continental plates, and this is the whole geological phenomena that we know, showing where the moon was carved out and how the expanding of these plates has filled back in, healed the Earth in a balanced state that is only slightly off balance. And this has to do with the core and everything. It's beautiful what the great variables and random haphazard kind of way of looking at things, it's all messed up, is actually making perfect sense.
We need to get the slides up. They're not showing.
No way. These are not showing?
No.
Oh no. I don't know how to do it. You got to get in here. This is you. Okay, do you want to start over again?
It's a team effort. No. The information is good. Something we just missed basically sounded like one or two things. But yeah, if you just hit share at the bottom and then
I have to exit first because he already brought up what I thought you were seeing.
Okay. Oh,
so this is what I say. You may want to just go ahead and start over again.
Right.
And if you want me to be shorter about it, I can do that.
Okay. Hang on a sec. Let's see if I can pause this. Let's just let it run and I'll edit this out.
You'll edit it out, yeah. It's okay. All the slides will be available right later. Okay, just keep going from where you're at. Science classes with Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to be so.
Okay, well, if you want, then let's go ahead and start over and start from here.
Can we share them now?
Yeah.
Are they seeing it now?
You see it now?
No.
No.
What? I hit share screen. I thought I did it. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay.
Oh, it didn't activate the share. There it is.
There we go. Okay.
I had to wait for it.
Got it.
There we are. All right. Yeah, they've already got what you were saying. What you were saying really is fine without a picture of the. Just go from where you're at.
There we
Okay.
All right.
Can this be instead of that?
I don't know why it's doing that. I didn't make it do that.
Oh, okay. This is kind of a cool little dot.
Yeah, but I didn't make it do that, and I don't know how to undo it.
Okay.
Cool beach ball. Okay. All right. Whenever you're ready, then, brother.
Okay. When we left off at the alphabet was the last frame that I showed on the last presentation was that all the alphabets that the Bible is in are in the heavens. Now, this is a profound thing, that Abraham's counting of the stars that made the proto-script, and the Exodus now arrives upon the upgrade of the alphabet, which is the uppercase letters that we've always known. Our ABCs in capital letters is just a almost a perfect inversion, like we're seeing it from the opposite side of the table. If you could see the tablet of the Decalogue as being the an alphabet, then the one who wrote it, it is upside down to us. It is written right to left, and we are receiving it left to right. It's almost exactly that. if I take the Paleo Hebrew, we have thought of it as Phoenician, and simply turn it upside down, rather than being written and read from right to left. You are now writing and reading from left to right. That's what it is. It's just upside down, so it's read the other direction. It's an amazing thing about it. But the tablet, when it comes, is in that amazing script that is also, and it is perfectly in the stars. Abraham was trying to count all the stars, and when he did, he counted more than 22. He counted something like 29 or 30 letters, and most of those are in the Arabian scripts. A third of the stars of the heaven have been brought down to the earth. They are cast down upon the earth, and they are written in the rocks. They are petroglyphs, and those characters are not star-born letters. The letters, though Abraham was counting the stars, he was teaching Ishmael with his finger in the sand. And with a downward view, Ishmael was thinking about things downward, things that are on the earth, things that are in the world. And this is Arabic to this day. It is the application, it is the demonstration language that is Semitic, and it's very active. It's also continued its evolution a whole lot further than Hebrew, where Hebrew has been much more of a stick in the mud, stuck in this keeping things as much as possible where it was. And in that is the amazing thing, that there is a Judean script that even after the captivity in Babylon, like they just had the sojourn in Egypt, 430 years, and they come out, and they still, if they know anything, they have the proto of Abraham's counting, and they're coming into the land of Midian. It is down here. All of this pretty much, but it follows all the way down to modern Medina. Madinah. It is, all this is Midian, this whole like corner of Northwest Arabia. But they are now coming across into the middle of Midian. And that's where this great city is. That is Jethro's, it is what they call the Well of Moses. And all this is where he lived. And he was there for 40 years before being sent back. And he gets the orientation with both. He now fully knows the proto script, but he gets upgraded along with everybody with the writing that is on the tablets. The writing on the tablets, that it also is in the stars, as well as after the captivity in Babylon, they come back and they still have a concept. This is amazing, that it is a stellar script, because even though they learn about their letters, what they were called from the alphabet, alpha beta, the Greeks, it is in the Greeks that they still retain the letter names and the letter order. They still seek to the heavens for their script. And so Judean Aramaic, as they make it all Aramaic after the captivity, that script is also in the stars. And it's what penned the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's an amazing thing. That last picture of the last presentation, if you just hang on that, you will see the ABCD of that. But I'm not bringing that back up. We're moving on. It is in this picture that you're seeing the way it looked anciently, which you see in the daytime, versus today. And today, what basically was population has grown. This night scene over here shows the city lights at night, and it is just amazing how much the lands of basically Abraham and Moses are ready now with all the modern amenities. When I started coming here, no one knew about anything at all. It was like was like you had to tell them there is such a thing as the internet, and it's just at the internet cafe, but you can go up online with the world. And the second time I came, they knew about mobiles, and now everybody's got the past cell phone. They got smartphones, and the third time I came, everybody was about GPS. Oh my, what, who has the ability to actually navigate from anywhere on the earth, whatever. And now everybody's just got that as an app. So progress has opened up this whole thing, and now Saudi Arabia is open too. It's been open for some years, and anybody who really wants to come can come, and it may seem strict, and you can submit yourself to all kinds of regulation, but generally, if you know what you're doing, where you're going, people get out of your way, and you might have some adverse reaction or whatever, but it's not so bad as you would perceive it to be in the forbiddenness of mentality of people. Everybody is interested in the tourism. Everybody's interested in the come experience, come know, and they want to know what you know, and they want you to know what they know, and there's a great yearning here, because this Arabian thing has been off limits. And past Abraham, got to go ahead and get past that again. This is dealing with the early stuff. Earlier in the last presentation, I mentioned this God symbol that looks like a circle with a cane through it. And the cane is usually at an angle, the L, the La. And this is an ayin, al. It's really upon is the Hebrew word. And this is what Abraham says. He says, I lift my hand to God Most High, El Elyon. And he says the word that is his name, but he doesn't know it is his name. He only knows it is the word. He thinks of, to say it would be Yahweh. He thinks Yahweh is he being. But he doesn't know it as that is actually the name that will prove to be so significant. So this is why our confusion. Well, isn't he already making an altar to Yahweh? Isn't he already calling upon the name Yahweh? All this kind of thing. Well, what they're doing is they've decided that there is a being. It is an entity. It's not just that there is one who is paying attention and deciding who's blessed and who's cursed, and what appeals to a him that's out there. So the modern Hua idea, and there are those who are saying the Yahuwah movement, the Yahu's in the world, who are just simply saying, and that's wrong, because to say Yah is to say her. It is there. Yah is in the Bible, and it is important that you know that it means her. But generally, people just say that whenever they see the yud, they say that's a yad, yod, whatever. That's the problem. There's a lot of pronunciation problems in the world, and it's because they aren't really oriented to how the pronunciation is. But that's not so important. The meaning is what matters, and so it is that these things, when I first saw these, I thought that's El, that's God. It is this picture, and here it sits upon a ram. So Alyon or Al, and this is like they would say Allah today, missounding an aleph as an olive. Still, there is the problem of an ayin and an aleph being mixed up. This is where the ram comes in. It is definitely a bumper. It's all about those horns, and those, when you see them, and I see them all the time, and I've seen them, just about anybody who's ever seen rams before, if you get off in the mountains, they crack against each other, and it's percussive. It makes an echo that goes through all the valleys, and it's striking. It will startle you, and it is that nature of the first letter, that it is the glottal stop, that it's this interruption, that it is the I and the E and the A, and sometimes the depending on the position that you're in when you get bumped. You're going to make that. And so as you're sounding words, whenever you have to interrupt, That's the sound of the aleph that is written into it. But it is an ayil, not an aleph. It's not an aleph. It's not a bull or an ox, nor is it thousand. It is the first. It is the in moving flocks, the rams go first, and they will attract all enemies. Enemies will come out to get that ram because it's the best. It's the deer. It's your hunting. It'll bring the hunters out ahead of you, so you'll know that they are there, as well as it is the tough one. It's the one that will find the easiest way through any terrain. So they're the ultimate leading animal, and it is the leading letter of the zodiac or zoo of the alphabet. And most of the zodiac or zoo is in fact animals, at least in the original concept of things. Anyways, the first tongue of Genesis is not a tongue whatsoever. The word tongue is not there. It is all nations spoke with one lip. It is a phoneme. It is a sound character. And dabar, a matter, something you're concerned with, a thing of concern, a matter. And that is a pictoglyph, a pictogram, a pictoglyph. It's a picture. And this is the way everybody communicated. They worked within what is cuneiform, which you see right up in the middle here, the Common and the Assyrian cuneiform. All the languages wrote in this same set of phonemes. And whatever word you had in your language. So when we get into the cuneiform of Assyriology, it has every language in it. And we have to say, well, what is the language? Is it Amorite, or is it Hurrian, or is it Hittite, or is it Persian? Elam what is the language behind these signs? And it is the same with the alphabet today, but it's Abraham's alphabet that we inherited. And so important to realize that bull, that is good, the modern word God origin, is not him. We have to stand corrected. Thanks to Ishmael, and even more the Arabs that he dealt with, all the cities, all the descendants that are listed in the Bible, they are here, every single one of them. You know Teman, Temanite, or Temanitic, Duma and Dadan and Hisma and Hassa and Sapha, all these places in the Bible. These are descendants of Abraham also. It is these writings that are all over the Arab world. And I use this key, and everyone does. This is just the standard key for all the petroglyphs here. Only all you have to understand is basically what I've got colored here, the stripes that separate the known languages that use and then it's basically north or south, the northern languages versus the southern languages. And one is more African and the other one is more kind of Eurocentric. There's a northern and southern. And in between these, the white up the middle is Thamudic. And they call this all Thamudic when you don't know. If you just come across these writings, they say, we found some Thamudic writings. And you'll find out whether it is the northern or the southern as you go into the translation of them, or you get into what I do, sounding them out first. And then I start tossing it off of, well, which lexical work does it make sense in? But in between, you still end up with this couple scripts that are in fact Thamudic, which means unknown. The language is not certain. We haven't yet had either they're extinct now. They are a people like maybe Horites or whatever. One of the people that Abraham was dealing with that are mentioned in the Bible, but we don't know who their ancestors are. It still has not come to be plugged back into it again. So Talmudic in the middle here, Talmudic C and D, remain undeciphered. And so they still are categorically Talmudic. And that has to do with the Quran, the Ad people, the people who are an unknown extinct race. But we find their ruins, or whatever. This is the idea. But just so you know, in the Assyriology, we had these, and they are just a round cylinder stone, which you see at the right. When it rolls into the clay, it is your seal. It just hangs around your neck on a pin, and you take the two ends of the pin and you roll it to sign your name to a legal document. And you're putting your hand, like the guy standing here, you're putting your hand to it. This is the seal in its earliest form. They wrote in clay, because clay was and this is what you would seal. They wrote in clay in this cuneiform, and cuneiform just means cone. It's like a pen that is for calligraphy. It's got a flat point, and you press into the clay to make each sign, and it's got that triangular shape. So you see the wedge, the cone, and they also did write in cone shapes too. So whether they named it after the first cuneiform was found on cones, or whether they name it after the fact that when you see the letters, they are written with little wedges, little cones. Either way, this became called cuneiform. This is a most important piece, because it turns out to be Hurrian. And Hurrian, which you heard from the first episode that we did, is what Abraham was. He was a Hurrian. And when he came down, he brought with him a whole comprehension of things that develop into what we have in the Bible. And the closest thing today you could say these people is the gypsies, and their colorful dance and clothing and music, and how they are both male and female oriented. They're not based on a male dominant idea. They have both kings and queens, and they have generally marriages that are in charge of things. And more than that, women do everything men do. They can combat. They can play all the same games. There's a certain equalness in them. But these Hurrians, this Hurrian document is on this side a set of lyrics like Psalms. At the heart of the Bible, you have the Psalms, and all they require is a beat. So you see the Jews in the Siddur, the prayer book, doing this rhythmic up and down thing, because all it takes is that beat. And if you don't have an audible beat, you got to just have the rhythm. You're thinking top beat, down beat. You're thinking up, like Jamaican music, the Rasta has that top beat, or you're thinking very kind of tribal bottom beat kind of stuff. But either way, you got to have that bottom beat, top beat, the bass, the snare, the whatever. You got to have the beat, and that's all you need to do a lyrical, a poetry, whatever reading. But it's just, this is lyrical. And this, you'd think that's all it is. It's just meant to be read that way. But then there's this side. And this side, the opposite, has an amazing thing. It is all done in musical spaces. The whole thing is all about whole steps and half steps that are composing the scales, the musical notes. And this is a new thing to everybody. What? This is the earliest song. If you could think of song as more than, song should be like psalms, just lyrics. But nowadays, music, which is what this really is, this is a music text behind a song of lyrics text. And it is in this that the most amazing thing is learned. Get past the words, and this is the words sounded out, and this is the words translated for you, where you learn something about a marriage, the responsibility of a wife to a husband, or how you can have another replace you. You're the wife, but you're failing to bear a child, so you can have the servant bear the child for you. This is a little picture of that. It's a Hurrian thing, and you see it in Abraham's life. It's about the earliest drums. So you know drums and bells both existed before Abraham and before this occurs. But until then, the only notation we had was this, the flute. And earliest flutes go way back to the Stone Age. They loved hearing sounds that they couldn't make with their mouth. So long before there was lyric, there was harmony but a flute can be quite chaotic. It doesn't necessarily have to be. We get real precise with making flutes now that have a solid note, like the keyboard. But back then it was quite random, but still it made higher or lower pitches, and they like we hear today, kind of randomly playing a flute, and it's pretty. Maybe it was like a shofar. You could hear a sonic point of reference, and maybe it was used by shepherds to call, like we do a whistle to call an animal or whatever. Who knows? But we do find, made of bone, these flutes, and when we find out where their notes are on the keyboard, they're all in this kind of range, and this section of notes. So this, you could say, is the earliest music, but it's not done like that Hurrian thing where it's actually in steps. It's actually written to be like you have here. You have the white keys are all major and the black keys are all minor, and you navigate the white keys by these black keys, and it would actually be like starting from a 1. Like to the left of 1 is A. You'd have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and at F, G here. At FG and at way back here at at BC, B and C in the middle here has no black key in between it, and F and G have no key there because they are a half step, and it's that half step, whole step thing that maps out, and it calls these sharps. The half step between like an F and F sharp, G sharp to A. But it gives the 12 to the otherwise 7 notes. And this is important that you understand 7 notes are between an octave. So wherever you have a G to a G, you have 8 notes. There are 7 spaces in between those 8 notes. The octave, the oct or 8, October, if you remember, octave. You have 8s, and you have 7 in between, 7 spaces in between 8. And these are the scales that are on that tablet. Quite an amazing thing that there are 7 scales written there. And today we have the same thing. This is the foundation of music, and it is, as we know it, real chromatic understanding of music. So you had to have all 12 strings to be able to do this, so that you have all the sharps and all the flats as well as the whole notes, and it's all together. 7 major, 5 minor added together, you've got all 12 notes. You had to have that to do these 7 scales. And today we know them this way. Now, this is amazing because it comes from the Exodus also. It is at the Exodus where you have the menorah made, and the menorah is made for the week, and it has to do with time again. But it is 6 hinging on 7. You have 6 days of work, 6 years of work, and unto the week, the 7th day that you cease, you desist, you set it down, you sit, and you give up on everything for, to know basically, did you succeed in your 6 days? You find out, did I actually make it count? Did I invest in my 6 days for the seventh day, or I can't keep it? I got to get back out and get it. Or did I work any difference in that 6 days? In the seventh day, I will know it, because time will go on without me. When I die, did my life count? Did anything I did add up to anything? And that's where the greatness of it is. But the balance point of a menorah, right up the middle, is this is the hinge. It's the hinging point. It is the center of the menorah that you do. In this is Dorian. Dorian is an amazing scale because it goes forward and back identically. Dorian is the same whether forward or backward. Same steps. Whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. It is these spaces in between the octave that are the interval between absolute notes that it's all about. And all the other ones, you only need to know 4 scales, because actually the 3 on one side are the same on the opposite side. So the opposite of Aeolian is Mixolydian, and the opposite of Locrian is Lydian, and the opposite of Ionian is Phrygian, and Dorian is both ways. And in this is the entire mapping of harmony. And in this harmony is amazing power. But we are only just beginning to understand that, even with all of our amplification, how reverb works, how substances harmonize with vibration, and how all substance has a tone, a frequency to it, whether you tap the wood or the metal, whether it chimes or whether it tones, whatever, there is a vibrational thing going on. This is just amazing stuff. That these are named. That these 7 notes get names. There are 7 notes 7 times. They are the 7 church modes, and these are in the Revelation. They are the 7 churches. It is actually our do re mi comes from what is attributed to Saint John. And it is the 7 thunders themselves. It is the key of David that is in the hand of the Lord, who is walking among this lampstand. It's all amazing stuff. But to these notes is given these 7 letters: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G back then was Z. And F back then wasn't Fav or Vav, it is W, an oo sound when it's infixed. So I call it a woo. That's the best way to call it. There in the alphabet, in the Hebrew, there is such a small, they actually want to say there is no lexical foundation for the letter. The letter is simply, it's what it is. It is a link. It is a coupler. It is a buckle. It is a nail. Anything that joints 2 things together, and that's what it does. It is done with 2 lines joining that cross each other up. Originally, it was a circle with a line through it, like a belt buckle. But anyways, as life has gone on, it still is the same. We still have a letter that looks like the ancient Zion, that is G. And the ancient G, Gimel, has become C. So Aleph, Bet, Gimel has become A, B, C. But anyways, the order is still the same. The letters are still in the heavens. The meaning is what matters. And so it's not all about like, you've got to change. It's just you gotta see what it says. Maybe seek the Father, seek the source, seek the origin. Get this stuff, because it's going to point at God, which is forward. All things are to God. It's toward God, and in the end, you'll know what God is. But awesome stuff. Oh, here's that one I was talking about. The red, being Judean, is higher than all of them. It tops the paleo that is in blue, which is the upgrade we're about to deal with, that it wrote the Decalogue. And under all, Abraham's counting that shows a ram, it's yellow. And so you can see Abraham's in yellow, A, B, C, D, and you can see the Paleo in blue, you just looked at, A, B, C, D, and you can see the Judean, the red, which is what he came into. When he came, he who this is all about came in, he came into this Judean. And though, yeah, he came into sin, he knew not sin. So it's kind of important to keep that in focus, that he was aware of far greater reaching things. And back at the important thing here, Jacob, when it is finally time, and Jacob is Abraham. Go way over here to the right here, thinking like Hebrews do. Starting with Abraham, he has this second son, Isaac, not the first. That's Ishmael. The second son, Isaac, is destined to carry the alphabet of the stars, and he has Jacob and Esau. And Jacob is the grandson of Abraham. He gets the concern from Isaac. Now Isaac's birth had to when it came time for Isaac to marry, he had to have a servant. Abraham had to send a servant back to his homeland to get a person to come for him, so that he wouldn't intermarry with the Canaanites. Now, the reason why is to have a pure bloodline. It's not to get the inheritance. Now, the inheritance is not a matter of possession so much as this oracular thing. Abraham was concerned about all of his matters that are going to inherit the future being lost to another culture. That he was aware that the Canaanites have 5 of these letters in a different comprehension, and it's a matter of time before they have lost the comprehension that I gave them of the letters and the stars and the original concepts. And if Isaac goes into the Canaanites, he's going to lose my oracles too, and there will be the progeny will just be in the world. So he's so concerned about this, that the preserved, the one that was sent into the world, he's preserving them in rock. He's writing this stuff. It'll stand the test of time. It can go ahead and evolve. It can go ahead and grow exponentially. He's going to be 12 nations that are going to be a great people in the end of the world. And Abraham can let Ishmael go, but Isaac he's really concerned about, because he's holding the oracles. And Isaac has these 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Now, Jacob and Esau, they both get preserved by God through the Exodus story. Jacob, he's the one who has to actually go back himself to the land of his father Isaac and get a wife. And he ends up getting 2 of them. So he agrees to serve for 7 years to get Leah. And Leah's got a handmaid, so he's already kind of got 2 right here. But he's got 1 wife and her handmaid. And he's got to serve another 7 years to get the one he originally wanted, which was Rachel, because the father slipped Leah in place of Rachel, because Leah was less attractive and Rachel was, he was still looking at there'll be a future. But in that 7 years that he was serving for Leah, nobody else came along to trump his offer, and he got Rachel too. And along with Rachel, her handmaid. So he ends up with basically Leah isn't delivering until it's like, oh, well, no, Leah does. Leah gives him some and leaves off and doesn't give anymore. But Leah's the primary one, and she gives her handmaid to Jacob. So this is still back at the same Hurrian thing we were just looking at, that there's this idea that when the wife is belittled, that she can give her handmaid. And then finally Rachel comes in and she gives her 2, and finally her handmaid does. Now this shows them as the other way around here, because Joseph and Benjamin were the last ones We know this in the order of the sons being given, and Dan and Naphtali are in here. So a competition was going on between basically the handmaids. But it's an amazing thing, this story. Now these are all the children, the sons of Jacob, but they are called sons of Israel later on. Right here, it's simply they are the sons of Jacob. They end up going into Egypt. It is in Egypt where they have these kind of seals. These kind of seals are something that we're going to realize, same as the next subject, that it's becoming contestable whether in fact the origin is Egyptian or whether it is Abrahamic, whatever. People are currently looking at the alphabet as being Egyptian in origin. The hieroglyphs were making the letters. We find out, no, it's actually unrelated. There isn't enough of a link. And in fact, Abraham came to Egypt and wrote this stuff. And so it is. The same thing happens again with the brothers of Joseph. Only Joseph is the only one that comes in first, but these seals exist. And the seals are only given to these, abed, servants. Servants are like the people with a job. You are respected. You have a position of honor. You're not just a nobody, you're worthy of the seal. Same kind of thing as the ancient thing that was kings and governors, people with that held a high office, whatever. Well, these are the same kind of thing, but it's in Egypt, and they do them on these scarabs. And scarabs are like beetles or fish or birds or something. There's some, and this has something to do with the service that you have. There's something more to it than I've bothered to look into. Why certain things? What's the meaning of the symbols? Egyptology is a huge field to get into, but the important thing is this Abed word. And Abed, it is an ion, so it has the ah sound, like an omicron. Abed, Abdullah, as they say here, servant of Allah. The servant word here is very important because it is the word that we translate slave. That when they came into Egypt, they were slaves. And that's not the case. They were serving. They had to serve. They had to be worthy of their keep. The servant is worthy of his keep. Important that you know the distinction. That slave is actually a bad word, and we shouldn't be using it. And abed is a very honorable word, and we should respect it. That's the lesson learned in these things. But circumcision, they say, is Egyptian invention. Now I have to go ahead and go with it, just because that's still the official chronology. But chronology of Bible and chronology of Egypt are still in the works. And we're learning that there is actually a high chronology that works better than everybody tries to go with the latest. These things are come lately, whatever, and they push it as long as they can that basically Hebrews were copying the nations that they were from. So Abraham from Sumer was learning the Babylonian way first and stole all that from them. And the idea of the Sabbath wasn't really from the Exodus. That's just a myth. They got it in captivity. And all this kind of stuff that's been an accusation, we found it doesn't work. It doesn't work with the archaeology. The archaeology discovers too much evidence to the fact that this is a Hebraic either innovation or origin in greater antiquity. So amazing thing, but we do find this circumcision thing occurred in Egypt, but rarely infants. Rarely is it an infant that is set down and circumcised, and only just the smallest fragmentary stuff has ever shown anything to do with a even youth being circumcised. It's a late thing, and it seems to be that Egypt wanted it destroyed. That being said, basically, as far as the Hebrew thing goes, the seals always have this double line down the center. looks like an equals. And this equals thing is what was necessary to do a circumcision on the stone. So what these seals are is really the naming. When you are presented on your 8th day, according to your time of birth, when you came, the stone is brought forth. This is a priestly function that he must keep the calendar and know the stone to record the given name, and it's a chain that bears that name to the sofer, the scribe that writes it in to the stone, inscribes it. But important, because that name, a name that you're given, isn't just empty. It's not just you were born with that name, your parents liked that name and they just gave it to you, but they actually watched you for a whole week of days and saw your characteristics, saw your inherent personality trait, whatever, some descriptive term, which is what Shem is, representation. It's a descriptive term for something. It's a very powerful word, and a name is a meaningful thing because it is always descriptive. This is really crucial in the Exodus because you have to know that the name of a place that it gives is descriptive of a geographical reality. You aren't just plain looking for some traditional name that's probably lost with time. It's not so stupid. It's a descriptive term, and when you encounter the geography, it's going to shock you that that's the very word that you were looking for. If you translate it first, you can follow that guide, and it is a Torah, a tour that is actually instructing you and guiding you between to the next location, from a location to a location, and you're always on this path. But if you don't know it and you're just looking to reconstruct it, then you got to know this first, that names have meaning and they are descriptive of who you are or where it is or what it is, whatever. Important stuff. But Jacob, when he wrestled with the angel, before he even had these 12 kids, gets a new name. He will no longer be called Jacob, Jacob. He will be called Jacob. He will not be called that anymore. He who is the heel, if you will, Jacob. He came after. He tried to push into the fore and ended up following after. And this is a good picture of what it's been in the flesh, but in the spirit, because he struggles to know who it is. He wants to know, give me your name. And it's so important. He wants to know who this angel is. Identify yourself, God. Well, it's Moses that gets the real identity of God. But Jacob longs for it. And in doing so, he'll walk with a limp for the rest of his life because and you can see his hand on his hip right here. It gets thrown out, but he's holding on to that angel. You know, that's basically, in reality, the angel was pinned threw his leg out, but he's already in the hold. He's pinned down. He's not going to let the angel go. It's not just a handhold. It's he won. This is what Israel means. He prevailed against God, and so he gets his name, and so Sons of Israel becomes the next big deal. Joseph, when he has these visions, his brothers get jealous of him. He's the favored son, and so they take off his colorful coat, this dream coat idea. They take it away, and this actually should be up here in the picture with the other picture with his brothers who are getting distracted by their lunch and by some merchants that are moving by, and in their distraction, he gets brought up out of this pit that they threw him into. They don't want to hear his dreams anymore. They've stripped him of his dream power, and they've sent him down into this pit, and so along come these Midianites and these Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites that are coming that are coming from Gilead. They are coming from the east to Dothan, where he is. This is an amazing thing, that route and where they're at, to understanding where actually what it says is Hebron, that Jacob was dwelling at Hebron, which is way in the south, and yet they've led the herd to Shechem, which is way in the north. It doesn't work. But the clincher is, well, which one's right? Dothan, which is actually right on the opposite side of the ridge of Shechem. So you know that the real place of concern is not where it's called today. This is so it is. The narrative straightens out the problems that we have today, where people are looking in our archaeology for where's the proof of this event happening, and they're looking in all the wrong places because they're looking at traditional names that have actually been multiple used or have been completely displaced, and so they're like, there is no proof. It's a myth. We now, so much proof has been found that it corrects our maps, and the places that we used to look for become really important. Well, just the same way as Jacob got renamed Israel, Joseph, when he goes to Egypt, gets a new name too, and we find these in seals, interestingly, and we find them also on the geography, places where he was at. It is still the name that he was given is still the name of the channel that moved the water through when they had to make a channel to do the mass irrigation for the time of making the most of the time of plenty that he's concerned with. He's about making these pits that are filled with the wheat in this chain for 6 years, because there's going to be a need in that 7th year, to turn this whole thing around, because you're going to have 7 years of drought that occurs, and things are quite chaotic, and they're going to have to have a centralized banking system. Our banking system is actually based on Joseph, and all the whole idea of loans and collateral and having a mortgage, whatever, all this stuff is based on Joseph. It's an important thing. Joseph is given a palace, and in his palace there are these. This is an amazing thing, because we not only did we find the seals, but we found the palace, and this palace is not the same palace as yet another one that happens in the Exodus. This palace is buried at that point in time. But it is really interesting that this is where his brothers would have been brought to when he invited his father and his brethren to become where he is in control and be saved and become an important people. Now, as far as these people go, the Hebrews, when they come, and these have been construed for the longest time as the Hyksos. But interestingly, they have the coats of many colors the same way that the favored are colorful. This is the wives, and these are obviously like important people. You could picture Joseph being in one of these kind of coats. But amazingly, we find that down here at the bottom of this man, we see the amazing tassels that are later, and this is in the Exodus, they are reinstituted. So over the course of the 430 years that Jacob has been, and his progeny have been servants in Egypt, they've lost this tradition of having the tzitzit, the little tassels on the corners of their garments. And this is an important thing, because when finally, in the end, and this is after the Exodus has occurred and after they've got the oracles, that they think of going back to Egypt, and they still haven't gotten their tassels back. It is at that point in time that it shows up in the Torah that okay, you complained, and you say you're going to just fine, give up and go back to Egypt. Now you're going to know my breach of covenant, and I'm leaving you to yourself. You're going to die. This whole generation that I've saved from Egypt is going to perish. But at least I'll give you back what you lost in that 430 years you were in Egypt. He gives them the tassels. And
That may be a good place to. Hey, Todd. Sorry, we're just listening intently over here.
good.
And lots of awesome visual aid and help too, because a lot of people learn like this. So it's very, very helpful. So we're at the point now where we should probably pause it. And now we're in the part of the historical account where, yep, this is how Israel got into the land of Egypt to begin with, and this is why God is going to help them to get out. And so we're right up to the precipice here. I think this is a real good spot. So Todd, I thank you so much, brother. Your work is truly invaluable, and we're just blessed by it. Taryn, did you want to put in a little 2 cents here before we go?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a music teacher. You may know more about scales than I do.
Oh, look at that.
I might employ you for the history of scales.
Well, now you know more.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, God is he's really involved. He's got his hand everywhere, right?
Yeah, it may take a handful of these episodes to cover the entire wonderful thing, but people will know how great this whole epic is in the end of these.
Amen. Amen. Good teaser. All right, friends. Until next time, for Taryn and Todd Eaton,
Thank you.
Manti, and bless you, friend. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
You've been wonderful.